I'm going to sound insane, but I think I figured out exactly what happened in this whole baby reindeer story between Richard Gadd and Fiona Harvey. I actually think they know what really happened, but they're doing everything they're doing for a reason. And I think it all has to do with the entertainment industry, you guys. Like, I know I'm going to sound insane, right? And this is going to be the most insane theory I've ever done on the internet, like ever. But we're rolling with it, okay? We're rolling with it. So basically, just hear me out, guys, because I'm going to have to put the pieces together, right? If you don't know what's happened, let's have a quick recap, okay? So Baby Reindeer, it was a series about a man called Richard Gadd who went to perform as part of Edinburgh Fringe Festival as a comedian. Wasn't doing too well, yada, yada, yada. He develops this stalker called Martha, which was the name now found to be this Fiona woman who claimed to be a lawyer, but would obsess over him as far as what he could see, show up to all of his shows. When they weren't around each other, she'd be emailing him all the time, all of these weird emails with spelling errors and all this different thing. And then they just formed this weird relationship where he was kind of nice to her and she kind of liked that he was nice to her. But then she was kind of obsessed with him and he was also kind of obsessing over her because he was making his comedy about her. And that actually did happen, like, in real life. So let me tell you guys how my thought process has gone here. And I need you to just run with me and trust me, okay? Just because you have to hear the full theory in order for you guys to tell me if you think this is not insane. Because I actually believe this is another case of people. I actually believe the whole entirety of this, it's a case of the entertainment industry and whoever was actually responsible. I believe the third party, this so-called individual that was the one, sexually abusing Richard Gadd, I believe that guy is some high level, like, industry executive. And I believe the reason why the case doesn't make sense is because they can't talk about it, Richard and Fiona, and they know they can't. And I feel like he went about what he did because he's trying to do something, and she's also firing back at him because she knows something, and they both know what they both know. They both know they can't really say what they know, but then they've also both done things in such a way that can kind of point to the answer. So hear me out. Okay, so here's the first thing that stuck out to me about this. Now, the reason why I'm even talking about all of this is because I somehow on YouTube stumbled at apparently the emails came out. So I was in the middle of doing some stuff and I thought I'll throw on the emails and listen to them in the background because I'm curious to see what these real emails were that were found. Because according to both of them and everything that's come out so far, it seems like for both of their stories, because he claimed that that the show was on true events, that it was a truthful show, right? And then she claims that some of the things that he said were not true. But for both of them, there are clearly areas where either of them seems to be telling the truth and either of them also seems to be telling lies. And so I have the theory that there's this other overlap, these areas where one of them is looking like a liar and the other one's looking like a liar. It's because they're both cover-up stories for whatever this other individual is doing, right? Because the whole way that Richard Gadd ends up getting into this cycle of whatever he got into is because he wanted to be seen. He bumps into an executive that's working on one of his favorite shows, right? Can't remember if they say what show it was. I don't think that they do because I think they've hidden that, right? I think that Richard Gadd purposefully wrote the show in such a way as not to put attention on this, let's call them industry exec, okay? Hollywood exec, because that's what I believe, right? And so I believe that, okay, sorry, I have to take a step back. So I believe that this industry exec, right, and the movie, I believe Richard Gadd is trying to leave clues. I believe he's actually trying to leave clues and crumbs. And I also believe that Fiona's emails have clues and crumbs, right? Because he says a lot of specific things about, like, where he was, what the interactions were with this gentleman, what kind of drugs that they were giving him, yada, 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 right? Here's the other thing I was thinking. Let's not forget that if this guy was this industry executive, right? Because there's probably people around. I reckon there's a lot of people who know exactly what went down who are not speaking up because of how powerful this industry executive is. And this is the person. Oh my gosh. Anyway, so think about it like this, right? If Richard Gadd was performing and he was getting helped by said industry executive, right? Do you not think that industry executive, Richard Gadd, and Fiona were all in the same room at the same time? Because she's going to watch him because she kind of knows him. The other dude's there to help Richard, and obviously Richard's the one performing. So then the thought to me came up, oh, well, how did the name Baby Reindeer come from, and where that came from? I actually think, what if it was the executive who maybe, let's say, Fiona casually says, sitting in the pub, watching, a comedy show, and whatever, and you just have a casual conversation, right, with the person next to you. Oh, he looks like a baby reindeer, right? Now, let's go on to another concept with that, right? Because I believe these two were both victims of this industry executive. That's what I think. And I'm going to tell you a few details why I think that. Number one, the emphasis on the fact that Fiona doesn't drink alcohol. Because when I was thinking, or Martha, when I was first listening back to these emails, the thought in my head went, well, what is it that you would have to be going on in your mind for like you to be behaving this way? Do you see what I'm saying? Because I was like, she seems to me like when I've seen all of her interviews that she's done, she seems to acknowledge some things and be genuinely believe that she didn't do others. And I'm not like society who's so busy getting caught up in laughing at people and pointing fingers. I'm really paying attention to the facts of the situation and getting a vibe for whatever, right? I really think, and I actually think there's an element of how both of the two of them have handled the situation where they kind of are like still slightly protecting each other. Because like somebody said in the comments of where there's this guy who's just reading, the emails are publicly available, but this guy's reading through, and I was like, hey, if I don't have to read and I can just listen, I'll listen, right? Anyway, but he's got them on the screen as well, whatever, it's public record now. And that's another thing I want to talk about in a second. But anyways, even somebody here was saying like, oh, what was it? I forgot what I was going to say now. What was I going to say? Oh, for goodness sake. I remember. So somebody even said in the comment section, he wrote the show sympathetic to her because the messages that are in these emails that have actually been found are horrid, right? So the messages here that I found are horrid. Now, here's my thoughts as well on that. I bet you that Richard Gadd went to Netflix and was like, sign an NDA. As long as you don't tell them who this person is, this is going to be the story. And why wouldn't Netflix do it? Because people were like questioning Netflix. Why would you not do your due diligence? I reckon they did do their due diligence, right? And that's why they went forward with it. But again, we don't know who this individual is. That's this person. Because again, society, because society is stupid, is fixated on these two. They're like never talking about this other dude, the one who actually was, first of all, using the GBH, right? Which Richard Gadd was drinking, and it was like, what you call it? It looks like a, I'm supposed to be a chemist. Transparent liquid, right? Yeah, transparent liquid, right? That they would drink in the show. And again, as an artist, as a creative myself, I know that when you create an art piece, you do every little detail for a reason. Like, there's a reason for everything. There's a reason a lot of times for like why the character's wearing this particular outfit, why the apartment's set up in this particular way. I believe so much of what Richard Gadd was doing was basically like giving you not enough clues without giving you enough clues, right? For all we know, they could have agreed to just do this on purpose to let us put the pieces together, right? But anyway, so he was being sympathetic towards her, right? And she, albeit, was, as much as she was going against him in the lawsuit and defending herself, isn't really bashing him either. So I feel like there's an element of they don't really want to go at each other and they still have some kind of sympathy towards each other, which is interesting. Now, to go back to what I was about to say about these emails that I thought was interesting as well, right? In these emails, there's a lot of details mentioning a lot of things, right? And Fiona talks about a lot of these experiences that she went through that sounds nothing like what she's supposed to do, because everyone's like, she says she's a lawyer, but how can she be a lawyer when she's talking about how when she's at NTV this and this and that, at the Labour Party this and this and that, whatever this and this and that, right? Here is my take on how that all makes sense. Number one, she's a lawyer. What if she was hired or blackmailed in some way, shape and form by said industry executive. She also repeatedly talks about how her husband died, right? I wonder if that death has something to do with, again, industry executive. Because what do we know about people in Hollywood? We are experts over here in Hollywood on the winning team, aren't we? So let's all stand up because we all know what we all know, right? What if all of this, I don't know, look, I think that basically, here's what I think, how I think it makes sense, right? Because some of the emails say sent via iPhone, some of them don't. I think this weird industry executive was using Fiona's email to contact Richard Gadd to talk about whatever he wanted to talk about and pretend that he was Fiona, and he was blackmailing him to do that because he had an obsession with him for whatever reason, whatever sick, twisted, messed up reason. But then Fiona also had some issues with him because she also had her traumas, and she was enjoying having this attention from Richard Gadd because she, talks about how the whole reason she called him baby reindeer is because he reminds her of her baby reindeer she used to hug when her parents used to argue. So now she feels like she's having this weird connection between this guy that reminds her of something from her childhood. And then you got Richard Gadd, who's in the situation because he keeps going back to said industry executive, right? Because he's going to this industry executive because he wants to further his career, and the industry executive is telling him that this is how you're going to do it, which is what we know is what they do in the entertainment industry. This is exactly what P. Diddy's being called out to do. This is exactly what they all do. Even T.I. and Tiny are known to do that, like drugging people. Drugging people in the entertainment industry is a big thing. Today I discovered about Kim Kardashian that she was at these Diddy parties being one of the main gals, getting people caught up, being used to blackmail people, getting them on tapes and stuff. This is what they do in the entertainment industry. They blackmail you so that you can't speak up because they have something against you. So that's what I'm thinking. I feel like there's something with Fiona, because Fiona always used to say, like Martha in the show always used to say, and why would he include this again as a writer? Myself, he would always include her, and she would always say, somebody's hurting you, aren't they? Or like, somebody hurt you, didn't they? Like that, right? Which I just think is kind of like, whoa, insane, right? Because there was something about the way that she was saying it and the way that the actress said it in the show was as if she knew. And that's why I felt when I watched the show long before I had this theory. I was thinking, something about the way that she's saying that and the way this has been written, like it's like this person knows, and somehow they know for a fact exactly what is happening. And I honestly believe that she did know. And I honestly believe that she was being used as a pawn, just like Richard Gadd was. That's my theory. I believe she was being used. I believe some of the times maybe she was being drugged as well, because I reckon that some of the time, basically, when she would be with the industry executive, he would drug her, use his phone on her email, like maybe he got access to her email somehow, and she might not speak up about that, right? Because if she speaks up about that, if she was to come clean about if she had any dealings with anything to do with her email, whatever, that busts the whole case open, right? So I'm thinking she would hang out with him. He would drug her while he's drugged her, and he knows that she's with him. So Richard can't say that he saw her and that she was at home or she was whatever she was doing. And then he's then texting all his stories, because there were messages where she's messaging and it's not saying it's coming from iPhone, and there's others where it's saying it is coming from the iPhone. I also think that she just started to also develop an obsession and get caught up in the degeneracy of it all, because I do believe that's what happens with folks. Just like how, and I don't mean this in a disrespectful way, I mean this in the most honest, genuine way possible, right? Just like how Richard Gadd, and I thought this was very very, very bold of him and very humble of him to actually portray this in the show. I want to talk about that as well in a second, but I will come back to that in a second, because the funny thing about what Richard Gadd did, right, is when I first saw the idea of baby reindeer, I'm going to come back to the other thing I was about to say in a second. When I first saw that it was him acting as himself, I've thought about that myself. Because I think my life is a movie, and I don't think anybody would ever believe it. Like, this is why I feel like I can put this theory together. So I've always said to myself, like, I would actually make my life into a movie, and I would actually play myself. And I would actually play myself. So I can get why he would actually play himself. Because it's like, this is the one way I could actually tell my story And even if people don't believe it, people already don't believe it. So I may as well just make it this TV show fairy tale. That's exactly my own thinking. That's what I was thinking when I watched it the first time. I was thinking, that's exactly what I've always thought. I think about it all the time. I think about all the time, my life is a movie. You guys hear me say it on the YouTube all the time. My life is a movie. My life is a movie. So I'm and no one believes, and and because my life is a movie, nobody believes it. And therefore, if I was to act as myself, people would just think that it's an art. Even if I said it was my real life, no one would really believe the truth if it was to be the truth of the level to which the truth actually is. And so again, I think that the reason why there was crossovers that didn't make sense is because there were things that were not being accounted for. I think the reason why Fiona didn't remember or is saying that she didn't send certain messages is I reckon she actually didn't know. Maybe this other industry dude was sending these emails and then deleting them while she was passed the hell out, because we already know what he was doing with Richard Gadd and the other side. Right. And then I also think that Richard Gadd was enjoying the attention of this woman because she's kind of obsessing over him. Right. And I don't know whatever issues he's got going on. Oh, yeah. Back to that. So I was saying that I think everybody got caught up in the chaos, right, of it all, because you got to remember as well that when you're coming up against people that are so powerful that you can't take them on, speaking out about certain people. This is why I have lived a very small life in comparison to some of these people out there who are going through stuff. I've had just a crumb of the experience, but I can tell you now and well that if I was to come out about my story, the chances are in details, the chances of people believing most of it are highly unlikely. Me being able to prove against the amount of forces that would come against me as far as human vessels, I would be overcome. So when people say, oh, you should just come out with it and tell people, first of all, the jury of the sheeple is easy to sway, as in people are quick to sway and pick a side. Like I said, even with this, the jury of the sheeple, who are they focusing on? They're focusing on Richard and Martha, who have some weird, toxic, warped situation going on. And guess who's going off scot-free once a frigging again? Like this stupid planet always does. The freaking predator. The freaking predator. And I feel like it's done on purpose. As per freaking usual. Because it reminds me exactly of Adam and Eve in the garden. I know I always go back to that, you guys, but it's the same thing. There's a snake, and the snake can bite you and can cause for there to be all this destruction and all of this chaos and then just disappear. A snake can bite you, leave whatever's going on and hidden. No one knows where it came from. But then what happens? There's a man and woman left. And everybody's pointing the fingers. Oh, we're on his side because of this. Oh, we're on her side because of this. It's the same thing. It's the snake. It's the predator, right? It's the predator, right? So anyway, so this guy, that's why I think that this whole thing has figured itself out the way that it is. I think that Richard Gadd was actually enjoying being obsessed over, right? As much as he was being creeped out, but he was enjoying it because he got caught up in the chaos of it all. Also because he's now going through weird things that is making him now feel a lot of ways, because he ended up being with a trans woman, right? And he wanted specifically to be with a trans woman, because it was almost as if and I'm not saying this in a disrespectful sense, by the way, but I'm just saying it for what it is, right? It's almost as if he now wanted to be with somebody he kind of wanted to be with a woman now, and he kind of wanted to be with a man, because he'd now been violated by a man, and he now kind of that was kind of a part of his sexual repertoire now. Right? It was forced upon him. I believe that's what happens in society. We won't even get into that conversation today. But I believe that so many of the stuff going on in society is a result of stuff like this. That's why when this story came out, also it's in Edinburgh, which is one of my favorite, probably my second favorite city in the world. I love it. It's dark. That's why when this series came out, I was like, of course it was Edinburgh. It's dark. It's scary. It's haunting. They have the museum of skeleton. What is it? The Museum of Surgery for the last 500 years. And the city is set up like a Rubik's Cube. Everything is dark and it's just, I love it. You can go into the dungeons. I like being in dark places that are filled with that kind of thing, because I feel at home in hell. The hell I overcame. So I love these dark places because it's just interesting to see how these things work. Also, I feel like you gotta really hone in. This is what I'm doing on this channel. I'm always talking, looking into the enemy, because how are you going to be an enemy that you don't even understand? So that's one of the reasons. But I do think Edinburgh is one of my favorite cities in the world. It's just, it's haunting, and it's, I love it. Anyway, so Richard Gadd, right? He's a bit confused. He's whatever. He's going through the rigmarole. We've got Martha, she's getting this some kind of attention because he is giving her attention, because he is feeding her. That's the other thing that people keep ignoring. He is feeding into her because he does keep being nice to her. He does keep talking to her. He does occasionally do this and do that. I think part of him felt bad for her. I think part of him was also feeling confused. I think part of him was also kind of appreciating him having some kind of normal experience going on in his life of a woman that's interested in him while he's confused about everything. Because let's not forget the other part. Yes, he wanted to be with this trans woman, but as shown in the TV show, he was not able to be intimate with said trans woman because there was issues there, because there was a lot of confusion happening, because there was a lot of confusing things going on. Why? Because of said predator who came in. And I find it fascinating that in the show, he then talks about how his dad went through the same thing. And I was thinking that's them generational curses kicking in as well, because his dad went through the same thing. And I've said it many times. I think that the non-speaking of sexual crimes to men is one of the biggest things that is affecting society today. That is what I believe. I truly believe that, because men are not going to speak up about that stuff, right? And why would they in this society of today? I wouldn't if I was a man, for goodness sake. Hey, I don't even do it now as a woman. I barely do. It takes all my courage. After all there be with the Lord, it's just asking him to strengthen me to take on this world that's going to just gaslight me and tell me that it never really happened, and this, that, well, the abusers themselves telling me it never really happened and all that stuff. So yeah, I get it. So I feel like, that generational curse, it came through. Because these things, they don't come out from nowhere, by the way. All of this stuff that's happening in the world, it doesn't come from nowhere. It starts somewhere. And there's a reason why it's happening, because it's a chain of reaction. This is why I believe in deliverance, but that's a conversation for another day. So that's my theory. My theory is both of them are doing everything that they're doing in the maximum way to give out as many crumbs as they can whilst meeting. Because remember, she's a law expert. She's a lawyer. I believe she's a lawyer. I believe maybe she was even hired as a lawyer by this industry executive. And it all just clicks together if you think about it. If you actually think about it, my theory actually makes sense. It actually makes sense. And then it makes sense why he would make a show about himself. Because like I said, I would do the same. No one wants to hear my story. No one believes me. So I plan to make my life as a movie, by the way. Well, actually, no, I don't. That's a lie. I wouldn't do that. I would not do that. It'll be too traumatic. No one will want to watch it. No, I'm not going to make my life as a movie, right? But that, I've thought about it all the time. I'm like, if I ever made myself a movie about my life, I'd want to play me. Like, I would actually play myself, because I may as well, because no one believes me anyway, right? So I actually understand his way of thinking, right? And I also think for this whole him and Martha thing, and I also think part of their bond is their shared understanding of said individual. And I think that was the clue again, with her being like, oh, someone's hurting you, aren't they? Yeah, like to the screen. Why would he put that in there? Why would he put in there that she somehow, why would she say that? How would she know if she's a stranger? Other than the fact that maybe they've seen each other. And like I said, they could have all easily crossed paths, probably at the very beginning of it all. Richard Gadd performing at the comedy fest, what is it called? What is it called again? The something festival? How have I forgotten it when I said it, like literally in this video? Anyway, you guys get the gist. Oh, for goodness sake, it's so annoying. And I was even going to go to it. So many years I've wanted to go. Anyway, gosh, maybe I'll be in Scotland this year. I'd love to I want to go to Edinburgh so badly. Anyway, so yeah. I've lost my thought track. I'm envisioning Edinburgh. And I took such beautiful photos the last time I was there. Anyway, yeah, they were all there. There was a reason for them all to cross paths. And there's a time when they could have all been seen together. One of the times that he was performing, because she was coming to watch and he was coming to train him up. Let's assume it's a he as well. Actually, it probably is a he because of the whole, yeah. He was coming to train him up and help him and watch him, and he spotted him. Who knows as well if, another idea, that those two were already in cahoots. Fiona and the lawyer dude. Because you know why? That's why she might feel so boldly to go up against Richard Gadd. Because I was thinking, why would she, as a lawyer, have all these people behind her and have so much evidence that does show that she was being sus and still feel comfortable enough to go against him? And then I thought, oh, well, if she had one of these powerful executives in this industry, in Hollywood, right? she would be able to do like what all of these others do and know that it doesn't matter what you say about me, just like P. Diddy did. He was all charged with this and found with that as people are making videos, he's being cancelled, this, that, and the other. And then bro was seen, playing golf with his twin daughters and released. Even though we've been seeing tapes and whatnot. When Jeffrey Epstein just coinkadinkly took his own life, which I don't believe. I believe Jeffrey Epstein is alive, by the way, just to be clear. Right? Paying people off. Because if she works in law, she's been working with him, they're all in connection with the government. They kept talking about the Labour Party. They're talking about MTV. They're talking about all these different things, politics. And it's like I say to you guys, they all work together. I always say to you that the Kingdom of Darkness frontline force is sports, entertainment, and media. Right? Politics. So they're all working together. They're all in cahoots. So she can go against him because she knows nothing's going to happen. Because they all know no matter what happens and no matter what people are saying and no matter how much the folks are upset, even if as much as she tries, as much as he tries, as much as whatever, the story is not going to come out. Because they're all going to protect each other because that's what they do. Because they're all going to be blackmailed or have something blackmailed on them because they're all out there being heinous together. They're all out there doing the same thing, drugging people and taking advantage of this and that to shut people up or paying people off not to say anything, probably showing up at all these venues where the three of them were all seen together and paying everybody in there and saying, say nothing and we're going to give you $1 million. That's why they need you to pay all this money to go to see Beyonce and all this money to go to see Taylor Swift and all this money to go and watch the football game and to go and see basketball, the NBA, courtside seats and all this stuff. That's why. So they can fill their pockets. So when they do heinous stuff I actually think I've cracked it. I don't care. I've cracked it. And this is why it doesn't make sense. This is why it's like there's no sense being made because as per usual, just like Adam and Eve, it's the same thing. There was a issue going on, but the issue didn't just start from nowhere. There was an initial cause. And somehow said initial cause just gets to sweep away and not be held accountable at all. Meanwhile, the two leftover individuals are at each other's throats. And then the jury of the sheeple is debating, oh, she's the problem. Oh, he's the problem. Oh, he and she and he. Is that not indicative of the society we live in today? Is that not exactly what society is today? I rest my case. That's my theory. Thank you, everybody. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. I would love to know what you guys think about this theory because I actually think this makes perfect sense. And the more that I hear about the story and the more that I recall the little details, again, the drink. What if it was that he drugged her from the drink? So she's saying, I don't drink alcohol, as if to suggest I couldn't have been drunk or nothing drunk could have happened, right? Because again, the drunk looking text messages talking about spelling errors, talking about this, that. Because like this looks like the types of text from somebody that's under the influence of something. That's what I was thinking, right? Anyway, and then I thought, well, first of all, the GBH is a transparent liquid, number one. Number two, she kept drinking, I think it was lemonade. Number three, they kept focusing on the fact that she was having a drink that wasn't alcoholic. So number four, that actually could point us towards the fact that drink might have been spiked at some point. So maybe she didn't have the initial conversation with such and such, but she got spiked instead and went home with him and then did this, that, and the other. And then he took advantage and then he maybe started to blackmail her because of her job. Maybe he, like the industry folks do, killed her husband to prove that he's going to stand on business. And then maybe that was also part of the little elephant in the room between Richard Gadd and Fiona Harvey. That is my theory, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know how I came up with this today, but it just hit me. And as soon as it did, I was like, I have to tell the winning team because I actually think I've cracked it. I actually think it makes sense. It makes more sense than what's happening right now. Because this is what happens. This is what the entertainment industry is perfect of. You know, the people that are always doing stuff that we can never quite pinpoint? Yeah, this is exactly what I'm talking about. I've seen it myself. I've experienced it so many times and I've seen it in the world. This is exactly how the high-level demonic powers of the world work. And it always causes chaos on a maximum level. And the people who are being violated and the people who are being abused are either are going through weird dynamics now. They're confused in the world. They've got trauma. They're forming weird trauma bonds with people. The twin flame, you know, the devil's version of a soulmate. Yeah, twin flame. Those two are like twin flames. Yeah. And on that note, if life's a game, let's play to win. Let me know your thoughts and add any details that you might be thinking to add to the... Because this, I think I'm onto something with this. I can't lie. I think I'm onto something. Anyways, you guys, let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below, because if life's a game, let's play to win. God bless you. God loves you. I love you. And I'll see you in my next one. Goodbye.